What if influence wasn't about manipulation but about understanding the hidden psychology that drives every human decision? This audiobook reveals the powerful principles of psychological influence that masters use to connect, persuade, and lead with integrity. No matter your background or experience, true influence starts here. Are you ready to master the game? Here's something that might make you uncomfortable. People form lasting judgments about you within the first 7 seconds of meeting you. 7 seconds, that's barely enough time to say hello, nice to meet you. And yet in that brief moment, they've already decided whether you're competent, trustworthy, and worth their time. You've experienced this yourself, haven't you? You've walked into a room and immediately felt drawn to certain people, while instinctively avoiding others. You've met someone for the first time and somehow just knew they were going to be important in your life, or the opposite. You've shaken hands with someone and felt an immediate sense of unease, even though they hadn't said or done anything obviously wrong. Most people think first impressions are about appearance. They buy expensive clothes, practice their handshake, and work on their opening lines. And while these things matter, they're missing the deeper truth. First impressions are about energy, not image. The myth we need to destroy is that charisma is something you're born with. Society tells us that some people are naturally magnetic, while others are destined to blend into the background. This is completely false. What we call charisma is actually a set of specific psychological principles that can be learned and mastered by anyone. Think about the most influential person you know. I'm not talking about someone famous. I mean someone in your actual life who seems to effortlessly command attention and respect. What is it about them that draws people in? If you really observe them, you'll notice it's not their looks or their words. It's something more subtle. They have a quality of presence that makes others feel seen, heard, and valued. This quality can be developed. It starts with understanding 3 fundamental principles of human psychology that govern every first impression. The first principle is the attention principle. Human beings are wired to notice and remember things that are slightly different from the norm. Not wildly different. That triggers discomfort. Just different enough to be interesting. The most influential people understand this instinctively. They don't try to fit in perfectly, but they don't try to shock either. They find that sweet spot where they're memorable without being overwhelming. The second principle is the mirror principle. We're naturally drawn to people who reflect our own values, interests, and energy back to us. But here's the key. This isn't about copying what someone else does. It's about finding genuine points of connection and allowing those to shine through naturally. When you truly listen to someone and respond authentically to what they're sharing, you create an instant bond. The third principle is the confidence principle. Confidence isn't about being loud or dominating. True confidence is quiet self-assurance. It's the ability to be comfortable in your own skin while making others feel comfortable in theirs. Confident people don't need to prove anything. They don't need to be the smartest person in the room or have all the answers. They simply know their own worth and treat others with respect. Now, let me give you 3 specific strategies to immediately improve your first impressions. The first strategy is the pause technique. When you meet someone new, resist the urge to immediately start talking about yourself. Instead, take a genuine interest in them. Ask a thoughtful question, and then here's the key. Actually listen to the answer. Most people are so focused on what they're going to say next that they miss the opportunity to truly connect. The second strategy is the energy match. Pay attention to the energy level of the person you're meeting. If they're calm and reflective, don't bombard them with high-energy enthusiasm. If they're excited and animated, don't respond with flat, monotone responses. This isn't about being fake. It's about being socially intelligent and creating a comfortable interaction for both of you. The third strategy is the genuine compliment. Within the first few minutes of meeting someone, find something authentic to appreciate about them, not their appearance. That's too surface level. Notice something about their actions, their insights, or their character. When you give a genuine compliment, you're not just making them feel good. You're demonstrating that you're the kind of person who notices positive qualities in others. Here's what I want you to understand. Mastering first impressions isn't about becoming someone you're not. It's about becoming the best version of who you already are. It's about learning to project your authentic self in a way that naturally draws people to you. The people who master this art don't just make good first impressions, they create lasting connections. They build networks of relationships that support their goals and enrich their lives. They become the kind of person others want to be around, learn from, and work with. This is just the beginning. As we dive deeper into the psychology of influence, you'll discover that every interaction is an opportunity to practice these principles. Every conversation is a chance to become more skilled at the art of human connection. You've probably been in a situation where you said all the right words, made logical arguments, and presented compelling evidence, only to watch the other person completely reject your ideas. Meanwhile, you've seen others who seem to effortlessly win people over with nothing more than a story or a casual comment. What's the difference? The difference is emotional intelligence. And here's what most people don't understand. Emotions don't just influence decisions, they drive them. Every choice we make, every opinion we form, every action we take, is filtered through our emotional state. Logic provides the justification, but emotion provides the motivation. This is why purely rational approaches to influence often fail. You can present perfect data and flawless reasoning, but if you haven't connected with someone emotionally, your message will fall flat. People don't just think their way into decisions, they feel their way into them. The myth we need to destroy here is that emotions are weakness. Our culture teaches us to suppress emotions, to be professional, to stick to facts and logic. But the most influential people understand that emotions are actually a form of intelligence. They're information about what matters to people, what motivates them, and what will inspire them to take action. Think about the last time someone truly influenced you to change your mind about something important. Was it because they gave you a spreadsheet full of data, or was it because they helped you see the situation from a different emotional perspective? Most likely, it was the latter. They connected with something you cared about, something that mattered to you on a deeper level. This is the foundation of emotional intelligence, the ability to recognize, understand, and work with emotions, both your own and others. It's not about manipulating people's feelings, it's about creating genuine emotional connections that make your ideas more compelling and your presence more influential. There are 4 core components of emotional intelligence that every influential person has mastered. The first is self-awareness. You need to understand your own emotional patterns, triggers, and responses. When you're aware of your emotional state, you can choose how to respond rather than simply reacting. This creates a sense of calm confidence that others find compelling. The second component is emotional regulation. This isn't about suppressing your emotions, it's about expressing them appropriately. Influential people don't hide their feelings, but they don't let their feelings control them either. They can be passionate without being overwhelming, direct without being harsh, and caring without being clingy. The third component is empathy. This is your ability to understand and share the emotions of others. When you can genuinely see the world through someone else's eyes, you can connect with them on a level that pure logic never reaches. Empathy isn't just about being nice, it's about being effective. The fourth component is social skill. This is your ability to navigate social situations, build relationships, and influence others in positive ways. Social skill combines all the other components and puts them into action in your daily interactions. Now, let me give you 3 specific strategies to immediately improve your emotional intelligence. The first strategy is the emotion labeling technique. When you notice someone is experiencing a strong emotion, acknowledge it directly. Don't try to fix it or argue with it. Just recognize it. Say something like, "I can see this is really important to you," or "It sounds like you're feeling frustrated about this situation." This simple acknowledgement creates an instant connection. The second strategy is the emotional bridge technique. When you want to influence someone, start by meeting them where they are emotionally, then gradually guide them to where you want them to be. If someone is angry, don't immediately try to make them happy. Acknowledge their anger, understand why they feel that way, and then slowly introduce more positive perspectives. The third strategy is the vulnerability technique. Share your own authentic emotions when appropriate. This doesn't mean oversharing or being unprofessional. It means being human. When you show genuine emotion, you give others permission to do the same. This creates deeper connections and makes your message more memorable. Here's what I want you to understand. Emotional intelligence isn't about being touchy-feely or overly emotional. It's about being strategically aware of the emotional dynamics in every interaction. It's about recognizing that behind every logical argument is an emotional need, and behind every decision is an emotional driver. The people who master emotional intelligence don't just influence others, they inspire them. They create environments where people feel understood, valued, and motivated to take action. They become the kind of leaders, friends, and colleagues that others naturally want to follow. Remember, every interaction is practice. Every conversation is an opportunity to tune into the emotional undercurrents and respond with intelligence and sensitivity. As you develop this skill, you'll find that your ability to influence and inspire others grows exponentially. Here's a question that might surprise you. What do you think is the most powerful tool of influence? Is it speaking with conviction? Having all the right answers? Being charismatic and charming? Most people would guess one of these, but the real answer is much simpler and infinitely more powerful. Listening. You've probably noticed that the most influential people in your life aren't necessarily the ones who talk the most. They're the ones who make you feel heard. They're the ones who ask the right questions, who remember what you've told them, and who seem to understand you better than you understand yourself. These people have mastered the art of strategic listening. But here's what most people don't realize. There's a massive difference between hearing and listening. Hearing is passive, listening is active, and strategic listening? That's an art form that can transform your ability to influence and connect with others. The myth we need to destroy is that influence is about talking. Our culture celebrates the smooth talkers, the fast speakers, the people who always have something to say. But the truth is, the most influential people spend far more time listening than talking. They understand that you can't influence someone you don't understand, and you can't understand someone you haven't truly heard. Think about the last conversation you had where you felt truly understood. What did the other person do that made you feel that way? I guarantee it wasn't because they gave you a brilliant speech or shared their own experiences. It was because they listened to you with their full attention. They asked follow-up questions. They reflected back what you said in a way that showed they truly got it. This is the power of strategic listening. It's not just about being polite or seeming interested. It's about gathering information, building rapport, and creating the foundation for influence. When someone feels truly heard by you, they become infinitely more open to your ideas, suggestions, and leadership. Strategic listening operates on 3 levels. The first level is content listening. This is listening to the actual words someone is saying, the facts they're sharing, the information they're conveying. Most people stop here, but this is just the beginning. The second level is emotional listening. This is listening to the feelings behind the words. What emotions are driving what they're saying? Are they excited, frustrated, confused, hopeful? The emotional content is often more important than the factual content, because it tells you what really matters to this person. The third level is strategic listening. This is listening for opportunity. What are they not saying? What problems are they hinting at? What do they need that they might not even realize they need? This level of listening allows you to become truly helpful, and therefore truly influential. Now, let me give you 3 specific techniques to immediately improve your strategic listening skills. The first technique is the reflection technique. After someone shares something important with you, reflect back what you heard in your own words. But don't just parrot what they said. Capture the essence of it. Say something like, "So if I understand correctly, you're feeling overwhelmed because you have too many responsibilities and not enough support." This shows that you're not just hearing their words, you're understanding their experience. The second technique is the question ladder. Instead of asking one question and then moving on, ask follow-up questions that go deeper. Start with what happened, then move to how did that make you feel? Then what do you think needs to change? Each question builds on the previous one, creating a ladder that takes the conversation to a deeper level. The third technique is the pause technique. When someone finishes talking, resist the urge to immediately respond. Take a moment of silence. This does 2 things. It gives them space to add more information, if they want to, and it shows that you're thoughtfully considering what they've said rather than just waiting for your turn to talk. Here's what I want you to understand. Strategic listening isn't just about being a good person or having good manners. It's about gathering the information you need to be truly helpful and influential. When you understand someone's real needs, concerns, and motivations, you can tailor your message in a way that resonates deeply. But there's something even more powerful at work here. When you listen strategically, you're not just gathering information, you're building trust. People are naturally drawn to those who make them feel heard and understood. They're more likely to be influenced by someone who has taken the time to truly understand their perspective. Strategic listening also gives you a tremendous advantage in any negotiation or difficult conversation. While the other person is focused on making their point, you're focused on understanding their point. This allows you to find common ground, identify creative solutions, and address their real concerns rather than just their stated positions. The most influential people understand that listening is not a passive activity, it's an active strategy. They listen not just to be polite, but to be effective. They understand that the person who asks the best questions and listens most carefully is often the one who ultimately shapes the direction of the conversation. You're about to learn something that will fundamentally change how you see human behavior. Every single day, you make hundreds of decisions that feel completely rational and logical to you. What to eat for breakfast, which route to take to work, whether to buy that item you've been considering. You probably believe these decisions are based on careful thought and reasoning. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of your decisions are actually driven by predictable psychological shortcuts that happen below your conscious awareness. This isn't a flaw in your thinking, it's a feature. Your brain is constantly processing millions of pieces of information, and it has developed these shortcuts to help you make quick decisions without being overwhelmed. These shortcuts, called cognitive biases, are so powerful that they influence everything from what you buy, to who you vote for, to who you fall in love with. The people who understand these psychological principles have a tremendous advantage in influencing others. They're not using manipulation or trickery, they're simply working with the natural patterns of human psychology rather than against them. The myth we need to destroy here is that persuasion is about having the best arguments or the most compelling evidence. While logic and evidence certainly matter, they're not what ultimately moves people to action. What moves people is the activation of these deep psychological principles that govern human behavior. Think about the last time you were persuaded to do something significant. Maybe you bought a product you hadn't planned to buy, or agreed to help someone with a project, or changed your mind about an important issue. What actually convinced you? If you're honest, it probably wasn't just the logical arguments. There was something else at work, a feeling of trust, a sense of urgency, a desire to be consistent with your values, or a need to reciprocate a favor. These are the psychological principles that drive persuasion. And once you understand them, you'll start seeing them everywhere. You'll notice how skilled salespeople use them, how effective leaders employ them, and how master persuaders weave them seamlessly into their communication. There are 6 core principles of persuasion that you need to understand. The first is reciprocity. People feel obligated to return favors, even small ones. When you do something for someone, you create a psychological debt that they feel compelled to repay. This isn't about manipulation. It's about creating genuine value for others and building relationships based on mutual benefit. The second principle is commitment and consistency. People have a deep need to be consistent with their previous actions and statements. Once someone makes a commitment, especially a public one, they're much more likely to follow through. This is why skilled persuaders focus on getting small commitments that lead to larger ones. The third principle is social proof. People look to others for cues about how to behave, especially in uncertain situations. We're more likely to do something if we see that other people like us are doing it. This is why testimonials, reviews, and social media endorsements are so powerful. The fourth principle is liking. We're more easily influenced by people we like, and we like people who are similar to us, who complement us, and who we feel understand us. This isn't about being fake. It's about finding genuine connections and commonalities. The fifth principle is authority. People are more likely to be influenced by those they perceive as experts or authorities. But authority isn't just about titles or credentials. It's about demonstrating competence, knowledge, and trustworthiness in your area of expertise. The sixth principle is scarcity. People value things more when they're rare or limited. When something is scarce, we assume it's valuable. When it's abundant, we assume it's less valuable. This principle works because our brains are wired to avoid loss more than they're motivated to pursue gain. Now, let me give you 3 specific strategies to ethically apply these principles in your daily interactions. The first strategy is the reciprocity starter. Look for opportunities to provide value to others before you ask for anything. This could be sharing useful information, making an introduction, or simply giving someone your full attention. When you consistently add value to others' lives, they naturally want to help you in return. The second strategy is the social proof technique. When you want to influence someone to take a particular action, show them examples of other people who have taken that action successfully. Don't just tell them what to do. Show them that people like them have done it and benefited from it. This reduces their psychological risk and makes the decision feel safer. The third strategy is the consistency technique. Help people see how your suggestion aligns with their existing values and commitments. Instead of asking them to change who they are, show them how your idea helps them become more of who they already want to be. This creates a sense of natural progression rather than forced change. Here's what I want you to understand. These principles aren't tricks or manipulations. They're insights into how the human mind naturally works. When you use them ethically, you're not forcing people to do things they don't want to do. You're making it easier for them to make decisions that are already in their best interest. The most influential people understand that persuasion is not about overpowering others with logic or pressure. It's about creating conditions where people naturally want to say yes. It's about aligning your requests with the psychological patterns that already govern human behavior. Remember, true influence comes from understanding and respecting these psychological principles while always maintaining integrity and genuine care for others' well-being. When you combine these principles with authentic relationships and valuable offerings, you become someone others naturally want to follow and support. Here's something that might make you uncomfortable. Your level of confidence is probably the single most important factor in your ability to influence others. Not your intelligence, not your credentials, not your appearance, your confidence. And here's what's even more uncomfortable. Most people are walking around with far less confidence than they could have, simply because they've never learned what confidence actually is. You've probably been told that confidence is about feeling good about yourself or having high self-esteem. Maybe you've tried positive affirmations or visualization exercises. Perhaps you've attempted to fake it till you make it, or practiced power poses in the mirror. And when these surface-level approaches didn't create lasting change, you probably concluded that confidence is something you either have or you don't. That's the myth we need to destroy right now. Confidence isn't a personality trait you're born with. It's not about feeling good all the time or never having doubts. True confidence is a skill that can be developed, and it's based on something much more solid than positive thinking. Real confidence comes from one source. Evidence, not evidence that you're perfect or that you'll never fail, but evidence that you can handle whatever comes your way. It's the quiet certainty that comes from knowing you've overcome challenges before, and you can do it again. Think about an area of your life where you feel genuinely confident. Maybe it's your expertise in a particular subject, your ability to cook a certain dish, or your skills in a sport or hobby. What makes you confident in this area? Is it because you tell yourself positive affirmations about it? Or is it because you have concrete evidence, through experience, practice, and results, that you know what you're doing? This is the foundation of unshakable confidence, building a track record of evidence that supports your belief in yourself. But here's the key insight. You don't need to be perfect or never fail. You just need to prove to yourself that you can handle challenges and learn from setbacks. Unshakable confidence operates on 3 levels. The first level is competence confidence. This is confidence in your ability to perform specific tasks or roles. It comes from developing skills, gaining experience, and achieving results. The more competent you become in areas that matter to you, the more confident you'll feel overall. The second level is resilience confidence. This is confidence in your ability to bounce back from failures, rejections, and disappointments. It comes from surviving difficult experiences and learning that you're stronger than you thought. Every challenge you overcome becomes evidence that you can handle future challenges. The third level is identity confidence. This is confidence in who you are as a person, your values, your character, your worth. It comes from living in alignment with your principles and knowing that your value doesn't depend on external achievements or other people's opinions. Now, let me give you 3 specific strategies to immediately begin building unshakable confidence. The first strategy is the evidence journal. Start keeping track of your wins, both big and small. Every time you accomplish something, overcome a challenge, or receive positive feedback, write it down. This creates a concrete record of your capabilities that you can review whenever you're feeling uncertain. The second strategy is the challenge ladder. Deliberately seek out small challenges that push you slightly outside your comfort zone. Don't try to tackle huge, overwhelming obstacles. Focus on manageable challenges that you can reasonably expect to handle. Each small success builds your confidence for bigger challenges. The third strategy is the failure reframe. When you experience setbacks or failures, consciously reframe them as learning experiences and evidence of your willingness to take risks. Instead of seeing failure as proof that you're not good enough, see it as proof that you're brave enough to try difficult things. Here's what I want you to understand. Confidence isn't about never feeling nervous or uncertain. Confident people feel those emotions too. They just don't let those feelings dictate their actions. They feel the fear and do it anyway, because they have evidence that they can handle whatever happens. When you have unshakable confidence, your presence changes. You carry yourself differently. You speak with more authority. You make decisions more quickly. People sense your certainty and naturally want to follow your lead. This isn't about being arrogant or domineering. It's about being secure in your own worth and capabilities. Confident people also handle criticism and rejection differently. Instead of taking it personally or letting it derail them, they view it as feedback or simply someone else's opinion. They don't need everyone to like them or approve of their choices, because their sense of worth comes from within. But here's the most important part. Confidence is contagious. When you believe in yourself, it gives others permission to believe in themselves too. When you're secure in your abilities, it makes others feel more secure. When you're comfortable taking risks, it inspires others to be brave as well. The most influential people understand that confidence is not about convincing others that you're perfect. It's about demonstrating that you're capable, resilient, and worthy of trust. It's about showing up authentically and fully, regardless of the outcome. Building unshakable confidence is a lifelong journey, not a destination. There will always be new challenges that test your confidence and new areas where you need to develop competence. But with each challenge you overcome and each skill you develop, you build a foundation of even that supports your belief in yourself. Remember, the goal isn't to feel confident all the time, it's to act confidently regardless of how you feel. When you can do that consistently, you develop the kind of quiet, unshakable confidence that naturally draws others to you and makes them want to follow your lead. You've experienced it before, walking into a room and immediately knowing who the most influential person is, even before anyone speaks. There's something about their presence that commands attention without demanding it. They seem to have a magnetic quality that draws people to them, and when they do speak, others listen intently. This isn't accident or luck. It's the result of mastering something I call presence. But here's what most people don't understand. Presence isn't about being the loudest person in the room or having the most impressive credentials. It's not about being physically imposing or naturally charismatic. True presence is about being fully engaged in the moment and completely comfortable with who you are. You've probably tried to develop more presence before. Maybe you've worked on your posture, practiced speaking louder, or tried to be more animated in your gestures. These things can help, but they're missing the deeper truth. Presence comes from the inside out, not the outside in. The myth we need to destroy is that presence is about performance. Our culture teaches us that to be influential we need to put on a show, be on all the time, and constantly prove ourselves. But the most present people do the opposite. They're simply, authentically themselves, fully engaged with whatever situation they're in. Think about someone you know who has powerful presence. What is it about them that makes them so compelling? If you really analyze it, you'll notice that they're not trying to impress anyone. They're not performing or putting on an act. They're just completely present in each moment, giving their full attention to whatever is happening right now. This is the secret of presence. It's not about you. It's about the moment. When you're fully present, you're not thinking about how you look, what you're going to say next, or how others are judging you. You're simply here, now, engaged with the current reality. Presence operates on 3 dimensions. The first dimension is physical presence. This is about how you inhabit your body and move through space. Present people are grounded, relaxed, and comfortable in their own skin. They're not fidgeting, slouching, or displaying nervous energy. They move with intention and purpose. The second dimension is mental presence. This is about where you focus your attention. Present people are mentally engaged with what's happening right now. They're not distracted by their phones, worrying about the future, or rehashing the past. They're here, in this moment, with these people, dealing with this situation. The third dimension is emotional presence. This is about being emotionally available and responsive. Present people don't hide behind masks or pretend to feel something they don't. They're emotionally honest and authentic, which creates a sense of safety and trust for others. Now, let me give you 3 specific techniques to immediately improve your presence. The first technique is the grounding practice. Before entering any important situation, take a moment to physically ground yourself. Feel your feet on the floor, take a deep breath, and remind yourself to be here now. This simple practice instantly improves your physical presence and helps you feel more centered. The second technique is the attention focus. When you're in conversation with someone, give them your complete attention. Don't look at your phone. Don't think about what you're going to say next. Don't scan the room to see who else is there. Just be fully present with this person in this moment. This creates an incredibly powerful connection. The third technique is the authenticity practice. Instead of trying to be impressive or perfect, focus on being real. Share your genuine thoughts and feelings. Ask questions you're actually curious about. Respond honestly to what others are saying. This authenticity is magnetic because it's so rare in our performance-driven culture. Here's what I want you to understand. Presence isn't about being perfect or having all the answers. It's about being fully engaged with whatever is happening right now. When you're truly present, you naturally become more influential because people can sense your authenticity and engagement. Present people also handle difficult situations better. When conflict arises or tension builds, they don't get defensive or reactive. They stay present with the situation, which allows them to respond thoughtfully, rather than react emotionally. This calm presence often diffuses tension and creates space for resolution. There's something else that happens when you develop powerful presence. You become more perceptive. When you're fully present, you notice things that others miss. You pick up on subtle emotional cues, you hear what people aren't saying, and you sense the underlying dynamics in group situations. This perceptiveness makes you infinitely more effective in your interactions. The most influential people understand that presence is not about taking up space, it's about filling the space you're in. They don't try to dominate or overshadow others, they simply show up fully as themselves, which naturally draws others to them. Presence also creates what I call psychological safety for others. When you're truly present, people feel seen, heard, and valued. They relax in your presence, because they can sense that you're not judging them or trying to use them for your own purposes. You're simply here, with them, in this moment. This psychological safety is incredibly powerful because it allows people to be more open, creative, and collaborative. When people feel safe around you, they're more likely to share important information, consider new ideas, and take the risks necessary for growth and innovation. Remember, developing presence is a practice, not a destination. In our distracted, fast-paced world, it's easy to get pulled away from the present moment. But every time you consciously return your attention to the here and now, you strengthen your ability to be present. And the more present you become, the more naturally influential you'll be. Here's a scenario you've probably experienced. You need to have a difficult conversation with someone. Maybe it's addressing a performance issue with a colleague, setting boundaries with a family member, or negotiating a better deal with a business partner. You know the conversation needs to happen, but you've been putting it off because you're not sure how to approach it without creating conflict or damaging the relationship. Most people handle difficult conversations poorly. They either avoid them entirely, hoping the problem will resolve itself, or they approach them with such anxiety and aggression that they make the situation worse. But here's what you need to understand. Difficult conversations are actually your greatest opportunities to demonstrate influence and build stronger relationships. The myth we need to destroy is that difficult conversations are inherently confrontational. Our culture teaches us that addressing problems means creating conflict, that standing up for ourselves means being aggressive, and that difficult conversations inevitably damage relationships. This is completely false. When handled skillfully, difficult conversations actually strengthen relationships by clearing the air and creating understanding. Think about a time when someone approached you with a difficult topic in a way that made you feel respected and heard. How did they do it? They probably didn't attack you or make you feel defensive. Instead, they created a safe space where you could have an honest conversation about the issue. They focused on the problem, not your character. They listened to your perspective and worked with you to find a solution. This is the art of mastering difficult conversations, creating an environment where honest dialogue can occur without defensiveness or hostility. It's about addressing issues directly while maintaining respect for the other person. It's about being firm without being harsh, clear without being cruel. Difficult conversations require a different mindset than regular conversations. Instead of trying to win or be right, you're trying to understand and resolve. Instead of focusing on blame, you're focusing on solutions. Instead of avoiding emotions, you're acknowledging them and working with them. There are 3 phases to every difficult conversation. The first phase is preparation. This is where you clarify your intentions, prepare your key points, and get yourself into the right emotional state. Most people skip this phase and jump straight into the conversation, which is why they often go poorly. The second phase is the conversation itself. This is where you create safety, share your perspective, listen to theirs, and work together toward resolution. This phase requires all the skills we've discussed: presence, emotional intelligence, strategic listening, and confidence. The third phase is follow-up. This is where you ensure that agreements are kept, relationships are maintained, and lessons are learned. Many people think the conversation is over once they've talked, but the follow-up is what determines whether the conversation was truly successful. Now, let me give you 3 specific strategies for mastering each phase of difficult conversations. For the preparation phase, use the intention setting technique. Before the conversation, get clear on what you want to achieve. Are you trying to solve a problem, change a behavior, or simply express your feelings? Write down your intention and refer back to it if the conversation gets off track. For the conversation phase, use the XYZ technique. Instead of saying, "you always," or "you never," use this format. When you do X in situation Y, I feel Z. For example, when you interrupt me during meetings, I feel disrespected and frustrated. This approach focuses on specific behaviors rather than character attacks. For the follow-up phase, use the agreement confirmation technique. At the end of the conversation, summarize what you've agreed to and confirm that you both understand the next steps. Send a follow-up email or message to document the agreement and show that you're serious about following through. Here's what I want you to understand. Difficult conversations aren't about winning or losing. They're about finding solutions that work for everyone involved. When you approach them with this mindset, you'll find that most people are surprisingly willing to work with you to resolve issues. The most influential people actually seek out difficult conversations because they know these conversations are where real progress happens. They don't wait for problems to get worse. They address them early, directly, and respectfully. This proactive approach prevents small issues from becoming major conflicts. There's also something powerful that happens when you handle difficult conversations well. You earn respect. People may not always like what you have to say, but they respect your willingness to address issues directly and your skill in doing so constructively. This respect translates into increased influence in all your interactions. Remember, every difficult conversation is an opportunity to practice these skills and strengthen your relationships. The goal isn't to avoid conflict entirely. It's to handle it in a way that brings people together rather than driving them apart. You've probably noticed that some people have an almost magical ability to captivate others with their words. They can take a simple experience and turn it into a compelling story that holds everyone's attention. They can make abstract concepts feel concrete and personal. They can inspire action and create emotional connection through nothing more than the stories they tell. This isn't a rare gift that only a few people possess. It's a learnable skill that can dramatically increase your influence in every area of your life. And here's what most people don't realize. You're already telling stories every day. Every time you describe what happened to you, explain why you believe something, or try to convince someone to take action, you're telling a story. The question is, are you telling stories that influence or stories that simply inform? The myth we need to destroy is that storytelling is just entertainment. Our culture treats stories as something separate from real communication, something for movies, books, and casual conversation, but not for serious business or important discussions. This is completely backwards. Stories are actually the most powerful form of communication because they engage both the logical and emotional parts of our brains simultaneously. Think about the last time someone truly changed your mind about something important. Was it because they gave you a list of facts, and statistics? Or was it because they told you a story that helped you see the situation from a new perspective? Most likely, it was the story. Stories don't just convey information, they create experience. They allow others to step into different shoes and see the world through different eyes. This is why stories are so influential. They bypass our natural resistance to being persuaded. When someone is obviously trying to convince us of something, our defenses go up. We start looking for flaws in their argument, questioning their motives, and preparing our counter-arguments. But when someone tells us a story, we relax our guard and allow ourselves to be transported into their world. Influential stories have three essential elements. The first element is relatability. Your story needs to feature characters, situations, or emotions that your audience can connect with. The more your audience can see themselves in your story, the more powerful it becomes. The second element is conflict. Every compelling story has some form of tension, challenge, or obstacle that needs to be overcome. This conflict creates engagement because our brains are wired to pay attention to problems and their solutions. Without conflict, your story becomes just a recitation of events. The third element is transformation. By the end of your story, someone or something needs to have changed. This transformation is what gives your story meaning and makes it memorable. It's also what allows you to connect the story to the point you're trying to make. Now let me give you 3 specific techniques for crafting influential stories. The first technique is the personal experience story. Share a real experience from your own life that illustrates the point you're trying to make. Personal stories are incredibly powerful because they're authentic, and they show vulnerability. They prove that you've actually lived through what you're talking about. The second technique is the case study story. Tell the story of someone else, a client, a colleague, or even a historical figure who faced a similar challenge to the one your audience is facing. Show how they overcame it and what the results were. This technique is particularly effective when you're trying to inspire action or demonstrate that change is possible. The third technique is the cautionary tale. Share a story about what happens when someone doesn't take the action you're recommending or continues with the behavior you're trying to change. This technique creates urgency and helps people understand the consequences of inaction. Here's what I want you to understand. Stories aren't just a nice addition to your communication. They're often the most important part. People might forget your facts and statistics, but they'll remember your stories. More importantly, they'll remember how your stories made them feel, and that emotional memory will influence their future decisions. The most influential people understand that facts tell, but stories sell. They don't rely solely on logic and evidence to make their points. They wrap their logic in compelling narratives that make their ideas feel real, personal, and urgent. Stories also create what psychologists call transportation. When someone is truly engaged in a story, they become transported into the narrative world. During this transportation, they're less likely to critically evaluate what they're hearing and more likely to be influenced by it. This isn't manipulation. It's simply how the human brain processes narrative information. There's another powerful aspect of storytelling. It makes you more memorable. In a world where we're constantly bombarded with information, the people who can cut through the noise with compelling stories are the ones who stick in our minds. When someone needs advice, inspiration, or leadership, they think of the person whose stories resonated with them. Remember, you don't need to be a professional storyteller to use this technique effectively. You just need to be willing to share your experiences and insights in a way that helps others learn and grow. Every challenge you've overcome, every lesson you've learned, and every success you've achieved can become a story that influences others. The key is to always connect your story to a larger point or principle. Don't just tell stories for entertainment. Tell them to illustrate important truths, inspire action, or help others see situations from new perspectives. When you do this consistently, you'll find that people hang on your every word and are naturally drawn to your ideas and leadership. Here's a situation you've probably faced. You need to get something done, but you don't have the formal authority to make it happen. Maybe you're working on a cross-functional project where you need cooperation from other departments. Perhaps you're trying to implement a new process that requires buy-in from peers who don't report to you. Or maybe you're in a social situation where you want to influence a group's decision, but you're not the designated leader. This is one of the most common challenges in modern life. How do you lead when you don't have positional power? How do you influence people who don't have to listen to you? How do you get things done when you can't simply give orders and expect them to be followed? The myth we need to destroy is that leadership requires authority. Our culture teaches us that influence flows from the top down, that you need a title or position to be a leader, and that without formal power, you're essentially powerless. This is completely false. Some of the most influential people in history had no formal authority whatsoever. They led through the force of their ideas, the strength of their character, and their ability to inspire others. Think about someone you know who has tremendous influence despite not having formal authority over others. Maybe it's a colleague who always seems to get their projects approved, or a friend who naturally becomes the organizer of group activities, or a community member who rallies others around important causes. What gives them this power? The answer is that they've mastered the art of leading without authority. They understand that true influence comes not from your position in the hierarchy, but from your ability to create value for others, build relationships, and align people around common goals. Leading without authority requires a completely different approach than traditional leadership. Instead of relying on position and power, you have to rely on influence and inspiration. Instead of giving orders, you have to make requests. Instead of demanding compliance, you have to earn cooperation. There are 4 core strategies for leading without authority. The first strategy is value creation. You need to become someone whose involvement makes things better for everyone. This means bringing skills, resources, connections, or insights that others need. When you consistently add value, people naturally want to work with you. The second strategy is relationship building. You need to invest time and energy in building genuine relationships with the people you want to influence. This isn't about manipulation or networking for personal gain. It's about creating authentic connections based on mutual respect and shared interests. The third strategy is vision alignment. You need to help others see how your ideas and initiatives align with their own goals and values. Instead of pushing your agenda, you need to find ways to make your goals their goals. This requires understanding what motivates each person and framing your requests in terms of their benefits. The fourth strategy is influence multiplication. You need to identify and work with the informal influences in your organization or group. These are the people who may not have formal authority, but who others naturally look to for guidance. When you win over these informal leaders, they become advocates for your ideas. Now let me give you 3 specific techniques for implementing these strategies. The first technique is the collaboration invitation. Instead of trying to convince people to support your ideas, invite them to help you develop and improve them. Ask for their input, incorporate their suggestions, and give them credit for their contributions. This creates ownership and investment in the outcome. The second technique is the mutual benefit frame. When you make requests, always explain how fulfilling them will benefit the other person or the organization as a whole. Don't just focus on what you need, focus on why it matters to them. This transforms your request from a favor into a mutual opportunity. The third technique is the gradual influence approach. Start with small requests that are easy to fulfill, then gradually work your way up to larger requests. Each small yes builds trust and creates momentum toward bigger commitments. This approach is much more effective than making large requests right away. Here's what I want you to understand. Leading without authority is actually a more powerful form of leadership than traditional hierarchical leadership. When people choose to follow you because they want to, not because they have to, they're more engaged, more creative, and more committed to success. The most influential people understand that authority is temporary and situational, but influence is lasting and transferable. A boss can lose their authority when they change jobs, but someone who has mastered the art of influence carries that ability with them wherever they go. Leading without authority also develops skills that make you more effective even when you do have formal authority. When you understand how to motivate and inspire people, you become a better leader regardless of your position. You learn to earn respect rather than demand it, to build consensus rather than impose decisions, and to create engagement rather than mere compliance. There's something else that happens when you master leading without authority. You become more influential in all areas of your life. The skills you develop in getting cooperation at work transfer to your personal relationships, your community involvement, and your ability to create positive change in the world. Remember, everyone has the potential to be a leader, regardless of their formal position. The question isn't whether you have authority, It's whether you're willing to step up and take responsibility for making things better. When you do this consistently, you'll find that others naturally look to you for guidance and direction. You've been learning powerful techniques for influencing others throughout this audiobook. You now understand how to make compelling first impressions, build emotional connections, listen strategically, and lead without authority. These are potent tools that can significantly increase your ability to persuade and inspire others. But with this power comes a crucial responsibility: the ethical use of influence. This might be the most important chapter in this entire audiobook, because influence without ethics is manipulation, and manipulation always backfires in the long run. It destroys trust, damages relationships, and ultimately reduces your ability to create positive change in the world. You've probably encountered people who use influence techniques unethically. Maybe it was a salesperson who pressured you into buying something you didn't need, or a colleague who manipulated you into taking on extra work, or a friend who used emotional manipulation to get their way. How did these experiences make you feel? More importantly, how did they change your relationship with that person? The myth we need to destroy is that influence is inherently manipulative. Our culture often treats persuasion and influence as dirty words, as if any attempt to change someone's mind is somehow wrong. This is a dangerous misconception because it prevents ethical people from learning influence skills, leaving these tools in the hands of those who would misuse them. True influence is not about getting people to do things that aren't in their best interest. It's about helping people see new possibilities, overcome limiting beliefs, and make decisions that will genuinely improve their lives. It's about creating win-win situations where everyone benefits from the interaction. The difference between ethical influence and manipulation comes down to intent and outcome. Ethical influence is focused on mutual benefit and long-term relationships. Manipulation is focused on short-term personal gain at the expense of others. Ethical influence respects the other person's autonomy and right to choose. Manipulation tries to bypass their rational decision-making process. There are 3 core principles of ethical influence that you must follow if you want to use these techniques responsibly. The first principle is genuine care. You must genuinely care about the other person's well-being and success. If you're trying to influence someone solely for your own benefit, without regard for how it affects them, you're manipulating, not influencing. The second principle is transparency. You should be honest about your intentions and motivations. This doesn't mean you have to reveal every detail of your strategy, but you should be clear about what you're asking for and why. People should understand what they're agreeing to and why it matters to you. The third principle is respect for autonomy. You must respect the other person's right to say no. If someone chooses not to be influenced by you, that's their prerogative. Ethical influence presents options and allows people to choose. Manipulation tries to eliminate choice or make saying no feel impossible. Now, let me give you 3 specific guidelines for ensuring your influence remains ethical. The first guideline is the reciprocity test. Ask yourself, if someone used this technique on me in this situation, would I be grateful or resentful? If the answer is resentful, don't use the technique. If you wouldn't want to be influenced in that way, don't influence others that way. The second guideline is the transparency test. Ask yourself, would I be comfortable explaining my intentions and methods to the other person? If you feel like you need to hide your approach or motivations, that's a red flag. Ethical influence can withstand scrutiny. The third guideline is the long-term relationship test. Ask yourself, will this interaction strengthen or weaken my relationship with this person over time? If your influence technique might damage the relationship when the truth comes out, it's probably unethical. Here's what I want you to understand. Ethical influence is not just morally right, it's also more effective in the long run. When you influence people ethically, they trust you more, respect you more, and are more likely to be influenced by you in the future. You build a reputation as someone who genuinely cares about others and can be trusted with important decisions. The most influential people understand that their reputation is their most valuable asset. They know that one instance of manipulation can destroy years of trust building. They also understand that people have long memories for how they were treated, and those memories shape all future interactions. Ethical influence also feels better to practice. When you know that your influence attempts are genuinely helping others make better decisions, You can use these techniques with confidence and enthusiasm. You don't have to worry about hidden agendas or wonder if you're taking advantage of people. There's something else that happens when you commit to ethical influence. You become more skilled at these techniques. Because you're genuinely focused on helping others, you become more attuned to their needs, concerns, and motivations. This deeper understanding makes you more effective at creating win-win solutions. But ethical influence isn't just about individual interactions. It's about the kind of person you choose to be. It's about using your skills to make the world a better place, to help others achieve their goals, and to create positive change in your community and organization. Remember, influence is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or ill. The choice is yours. You can use these skills to manipulate others for short-term gain, or you can use them to create lasting positive change. The techniques are the same, but the intention and application make all the difference. When you commit to ethical influence, you join the ranks of those who use their power responsibly. You become someone who can be trusted with influence, because you use it, not just for personal gain, but for the greater good. This is the true art of influence, using your skills to lift others up, while achieving your own goals. You've now learned the fundamental principles of psychological influence. You understand how to make powerful first impressions, build emotional connections, listen strategically, and lead without authority. You know how to use storytelling to inspire action, and how to handle difficult conversations with grace. Most importantly, you understand how to use these skills ethically and responsibly. But knowledge without application is worthless. The principles you've learned in this audiobook are not just interesting concepts to think about, they're practical tools that need to be used consistently to create real change in your life and the lives of others. The journey to mastery doesn't end here. It begins here. Every interaction you have from this point forward is an opportunity to practice these principles. Every conversation is a chance to become more skilled at reading people, building rapport, and creating influence. Every difficult situation is a chance to demonstrate your ability to lead and inspire. But remember, mastery isn't about perfection. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have conversations that don't go as planned. You're going to face situations where these techniques don't seem to work. This is normal and expected. The key is to learn from these experiences and keep practicing. The most important thing you can do right now is to pick one principle from this audiobook and commit to applying it in your daily interactions. Maybe it's strategic listening, or perhaps it's building your confidence through small challenges. Whatever you choose, practice it consistently until it becomes natural. As you develop these skills, you'll notice something remarkable happening. People will begin to see you differently. They'll seek out your opinions, look to you for leadership, and trust you with important decisions. You'll find that doors open more easily, relationships deepen more quickly, and opportunities present themselves more frequently. But more than that, you'll develop a deeper understanding of human nature. You'll become more empathetic, more perceptive, and more skilled at navigating the complex social dynamics that govern our world. You'll become the kind of person who makes others feel understood, valued, and inspired. This is the true power of influence. Not just the ability to get what you want, but the ability to help others get what they want too. When you master these principles, you become someone who creates value wherever you go, who builds others up while advancing your own goals, and who leaves every interaction better than you found it. The world needs more people who understand how to influence others ethically and effectively. It needs people who can bridge differences, build consensus, and inspire positive change. It needs people who can cut through the noise and confusion to help others see new possibilities and take meaningful action. You have the tools now. You have the knowledge. The question is, what will you do with it? The choice is yours. You can set this audiobook aside and go back to interacting with others the way you always have. Or you can take these principles and begin the journey of becoming someone whose influence creates positive change in the world. I challenge you to choose the path of growth. Choose to become someone who uses influence to lift others up. Choose to become a leader who inspires rather than manipulates. Choose to become the kind of person who makes the world a better place through the power of ethical influence. Your journey to mastery begins now. The game has always been there, waiting for you to learn the rules and play it consciously. Now you can. Now you will. Master the game. Master the art of psychological influence, and use that mastery to create the life and relationships you truly want. The world is waiting for your influence. Make it count.